The reason why I bring up this time of year is the anniversary that just passed.
Oh, my God,
Wednesday.
that's right. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It was 41 years ago Wednesday, George, when you strode into Yankee Stadium on that day and brought your bat with you, George.
Yep, I brought my bat, and it had a little too much pine tar on it, which I didn't know at the time.
So let's just drill down on this, if you don't mind, a little bit. What were you thinking as you strolled into Yankee Stadium's batter's box against Goose Gossage with a man on, down a run, and 2 outs in the 9th inning on that day in 1983, George?
Well, I knew Goose. I faced Goose enough over my career that he was going to throw it as hard as he could, and that's all I knew. I didn't know if it was going to be inside, outside. He claims to this day that on that pitch he was trying to hit me in the neck, and the ball was up and in, but I was just trying to hit the ball hard somewhere. And if I hit that ball in Kansas City, it might hit the bottom of the wall. The right fielder might have caught it. But Yankee Stadium, the fences are so short in right field. I tomahawked it, and it barely went out. And, man, I ran around those bases feeling pretty good. Sat in the dugout, felt pretty good. The longer the umpires talked out there on the field, the longer they were talking, and Billy Martin was standing there, and they had a bunch of guys on the team standing around. But the longer they talked, I thought I was in trouble. When they measured the bat, like I can see right now across home plate, I'm going, what are they doing there? But the umpires probably know how wide home plate is. And from what I found out after that event, you cannot have pine tar more than 18 inches from the bottom of your bat up to the top of your bat. That bat was 23. So I missed it by 5. And the umpire called me out, and I went berserk.
Yes, you did. Did you realize at the time you were going as berserk as you were going, George? In the moment?
I don't even. I swear, Rich, I don't remember sprinting out there, throwing my arms up. I do remember pointing my finger at Timmy McClellan, and then Joe Brinkman grabbed me from behind and started dragging me, and that's what really kind of pissed me off, because I didn't know who it was, and it was kind of hurting a little bit. And he just kept dragging and dragging and dragging, and I was just trying to get away. I wasn't going to hit Tim McClellan. He's 6'5", had a bat in his hand, shin guards, he had a mask in his other hand. If I would have hit him, I would have been kicked out of baseball forever. But I was going to give him a good piece of my mind, and when Joe Brinkman grabbed me from behind, that's what made everything escalate. And it's funny. I realized I knew I was doing the show today, and yesterday I got a bunch of calls and texts. Hey, congratulations on the anniversary. And I'm going, what are you talking about? I didn't even.
You didn't even know that Wednesday was the anniversary.
Huh. I didn't even know until I started getting texts.
It's kind of amazing how it still stands today. And, Billy Martin being involved in the Yankee dugout, and apparently Greg Nettles, who was once popped for that sort of thing when he was on the Minnesota Twins a couple years before, the Yankee third baseman noticed your bat, and they were just going to utilize it against you at the most appropriate time to try and, catch you, not knowing it would be a top of the 9th go-ahead 2-run shot off of a fellow future Hall of Famer and Goose Gossage. Did you know that the Yankees were kind of staring at your bat, George?
No, I had no clue. And we had played the Yankees like 10 days before in Kansas City. And, I'm sure I got some hits, but never, you might have hit a 2-out double, 2 outs, or, you might have got a single with nobody on. They weren't going to do it then. They were going to wait for the right moment. And that was about as right as a moment as you could possibly have. A game-winning home run in the top of the 9th inning. And they said, okay, now let's do it. And, I played golf this weekend with John Sherholtz, a fellow Hall of Famer. And John was the general manager of the Royals then, and he and Dean Taylor wrote a letter to then President Lee McPhail.
Yes.
And protested the umpire's decision. Little did I know about any of that stuff. And then about a week later, Lee McPhail came out and said, no, the home run counts. George gets credit with the home run, the RBIs, the Royals are winning. About 10 days later, 2 weeks later, we had an off day on our way to Baltimore. the Yankees had an off day at home. So we had to fly to New York and finish the game from that point on.
Yes, and
I was kicked out of the game, so I didn't have to go. I went to some little Italian restaurant right by the airport, LaGuardia, watched the game on a little TV, and then met everybody back on the airplane.
Yeah, because that was one of the questions about your whereabouts for that game.
Well, I was kicked out of the game, and my manager in '83,
Dick Hauser.
Dick Hauser.
Yeah.
Dick said, "You're not going to the game. You're not even going to set foot near the stadium. So you can sit on the plane, you can go to the terminal and have something to eat." Larry Amici, Don Amici's son, was our travel guy with TWA. We jumped in a cab and went to some little Italian restaurant right by the airport, sat there at the bar, had a little snack, a couple beers, and then the game was over in 10 minutes. And by the time they got back, we were on the plane waiting to go to Baltimore.
Yeah, nobody was in the stadium. Ron Guidry was in center field. Mattingly was at second base. Billy Martin was pissed. Quisenberry closed things out. You know, it was a W for the Royals. And, it's interesting. You mentioned how George Brett here on the Rich Eisen Show, how you got suspended for your reaction.
I never got suspended. I just got kicked out of the game.
You got kicked out.
I
Okay.
never got fined. If I got fined, the Royals paid it.
Okay, so
I got kicked out of games before, and I never paid a fine. Back then the fine might have been $500 or $1,000. I think if I ever got fined, the Kansas City Royals paid it because I never knew about it.
Well, you were ejected from the game. Better way to put it, obviously, right. More accurate. Also, I think we saw a photograph earlier on in this conversation. Rocky Colavito, your coach, he was a hitting coach then. He got ejected as well for arguing with the umpires. I believe that might be Rocky right there, potentially.
No, that's Dick Hauser.
No, that's Dick right there. Okay, so
that's Dick right there. Yeah.
So Colavito got ejected as well, and also got ejected was fellow future Hall of Famer Gaylord Perry because I think he ran off with the bat. George, is that what happened?
He did. Gaylord was the first guy that I played with that was a memorabilia nut, and supposedly when he won his 300th game, he wore 9 different jerseys, and then he sold every jersey as the game used 300-win jersey, So Gaylord all of a sudden saw dollar bill signs in his eyes as the umpire is holding the bat and we're out there arguing. Gaylord rips the bat out of the umpire's hand, and he starts running with it. And then all of a sudden he throws it to Steve Ranko because the security was getting around him. And then Steve threw it to somebody else. They took off running to the locker room. And from what I was told, I was still on the field arguing, the security people in New York are on the radio. Lock the locker room door. The bat is coming that way. We got to get that bat, But Gaylord tried to steal it, which made me look even more guilty. Thanks, Gaylord. I hope you're getting a good laugh out of this in heaven, Gaylord.
But is it true? Is it
guilty? Trying to steal the evidence.
Is it true though? You eventually got possession of the bat back and gave it to the Hall of Fame. Is that true, George?
Well, what happened is Lee McPhail ended up mailing me the bat back, and they mailed it back through Emory Air Freight in Detroit. And I got the bat, and the first thing that I did is I cleaned it up a little bit, and I put a little red line where 18 inches was. And I'm using that bat, and Gaylord Perry says, "George, are you crazy? That bat's worth a lot of money." So I took the bat out of play. Anyways, down the road, Barry Halper, Barry, the big collector out of New York.
Yep.
He wanted the bat. I was getting calls from so many people wanting to buy the bat from me. I ended up selling it to Barry Halper. And then about 2 weeks later, I came to my senses, and I said, that bat belongs in the Hall of Fame. So I gave Barry back his money. He gave me the bat, and I gave it to the Hall of Fame.
Where it currently is.
And that's where it belongs. That's where it belongs.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Barry has the ball, though, that you hit, and Goose Gossage autographed it in the most profane manner, George.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Goose, by the way, set a record of cursing on live Rich Eisen Show air about 5 years ago, but I'm sure that doesn't surprise you.
What was he ranting
I don't
about?
know. I kind of don't remember because I was just blacking out for how many times he dropped F-bombs. But apparently he put one on the ball saying, Barry, I threw the effing thing, is what he wrote. That's how it apparently is what he autographed the ball. But it's amazing how it endures 41 years later, George. You're
Well, it's funny. That's what I'm remembered for. And prior to that, I have to remind everybody that I was the guy with hemorrhoids in the 80 World Series. And everywhere I went from 1980 to July 24th, 1983, I would get on the on-deck circle on the road, and all I would hear is hemorrhoid jokes. Well, the pine tar incident is the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because now, from July 24th, 1983, even till today, I'm the pine tar guy. Now, what would you rather be remembered for between those two things? Hitting a home run off Goose, to win a game in New York, or the guy that suffered from hemorrhoids in the 80 World Series? Come on, what would you rather be remembered for, Rich?
I'd rather be the pine tar guy, George Brett.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's probably the best thing that ever happened.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.